My daughter pulled a birthday dress out of a gift box, held it up, and started spinning until she stopped. She turned the collar over, looked up at me, and said, "Mommy, why does it have a different girl's name on it?" That was the moment I found out my entire family had been lying to me for 3 years. And I'm a forensic accountant, so I built a file. Nadia turned 8 on a Saturday in June. I'd been awake since 5. There were streamers. There was a butterfly cake. Her dad had hidden scavenger hunt clues around the backyard in little mason jars because that's the kind of dad he is. And I was running on coffee and pure love, determined to make that day perfect. My parents weren't coming. My mom, Sandra, had called a week earlier. My dad, Frank, had a cardiology appointment that just couldn't be moved. She said it twice. I've known my mother long enough to know that when she repeats herself, she's rehearsing. I let it go. I always let things go with her. That's not a personality trait, it's a survival skill I developed growing up in a house where the older child was treated like royalty, and I was treated like the help. My sister, Claire, was 3 years older, and the sun rose and set on her as far as my parents were concerned. I don't say that with bitterness. I say it because you need to understand the foundation before you see how the whole house cracks. I told Nadia that Grandma and Grandpa sent a special package instead. Her eyes went wide. She believed every gift from them was chosen just for her. She believed that because I taught her to. The box arrived at noon. White cardboard, Mom's handwriting on the label. A sliver of pink tissue paper caught in the seam. I set it on the present table and went back to frosting cupcakes. By 4 o'clock, the party was winding down. Nadia sat on the living room floor surrounded by wrapping paper, already sorting her gifts by category, because she's that kind of kid. Books in one pile, art supplies in another. "Can I open Grandma's now?" "Go ahead, baby." She tore through the tissue paper and pulled out a dress. Pink cotton, little pearl buttons, a Peter Pan collar. She held it against her chest and spun. For about 3 seconds she was pure joy, then she stopped. Her fingers found the inside of the collar and traced something stitched there. White thread, neat cursive, a name. She looked up at me. "Mommy, why does it say a different girl's name?" I crossed the room. I took the collar in my hands. The name wasn't Nadia, it was Claire. My sister's name, embroidered into a brand new dress. Sized for an 8-year-old, sent to my daughter on her birthday. I kept my face perfectly still. I told her it was a mix-up. She believed me. She went back to her books. I walked to the kitchen counter and found the card tucked at the bottom of the box. "For our little Claire, with all our love." I stood there for a long time. My husband, Marcus, came in from hosing off the patio, saw my face, and didn't say a word. I handed him the card. He read it once, twice. Neither of us spoke. That night, after Nadia was asleep, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop, and I did the only thing I know how to do when something doesn't make sense. I followed the money. Because here's what you need to know about me. I'm a CPA. I audit corporate books for a living. I find the things that people hope no one will notice. I'm very good at it because I grew up in a house where nothing came free for me, so I learned early to read between every line. For the past 3 years, I'd been sending my parents money every month. $1,200 toward their mortgage. $400 for my dad's supplemental health insurance because Medicare didn't cover his specialist. $110 for our shared phone plan. And every few months my mom would call with something extra. A water heater, a property tax bill, an ER copay from one of my dad's cardiac episodes. I never questioned it. She'd drop her voice to that particular register, soft, cracked, exhausted, and say, "Your father's heart can't wait." And I would pull up my spreadsheet, adjust our household budget, and wire the money. Marcus had asked questions exactly once. He'd looked up the insurance plan online and pointed out that the coverage was more comprehensive than what my mom described. I told him it was complicated. He set his phone down and didn't push. He was a good man. I was not ready to know what I already suspected, so I opened a fresh spreadsheet, blank cells, cursor blinking, and I started building a case. 3 years of outgoing transfers. Every Zelle payment, every auto-pay confirmation. I pulled my dad's insurance claims from the portal, every specialist visit, every copay, every explanation of benefits. I cross-referenced them against every single expense my mom had described to me on the phone. Here's what I found. The real copay for my dad's latest procedure was $42, not $400, $42. The mortgage was current because I paid it automatically every month. The property taxes were current too, also paid, also verified through county records. I ran a total of everything I'd sent in the last 3 years beyond the mortgage and insurance. $41,000. I ran a total of what I could verify actually went to what my mother claimed. The gap was $41,000. I leaned back in my chair and pressed my palms against my eyes. Marcus set down the screwdriver he'd been using on Nadia's new bookshelf. He looked at me across the room. How bad? 41,000. He nodded slowly. The nod of a man who'd suspected something for years and taken no pleasure in being right. You need to go over there, he said. And Nadia, check that room. He meant the room at the end of my parents' hallway, the one with the door that was always closed. Claire's old room, preserved like a museum exhibit. Untouched since the day my sister disappeared 3 years ago. Because here's the other thing you need to know. Claire didn't just drift away. She detonated. Her 20s were a cycle of borrowed money, failed business ideas, and men who evaporated. She drained my parents' savings. She talked my dad into cautioning a lease she abandoned 4 months later. She maxed out their credit card and convinced them it was bad luck, not bad choices. Then 3 years ago, she texted my mom, I need space. Don't look for me, and she was gone. My mother was devastated in a way that was almost frightening. She sat in Claire's room with the door locked for hours. She called the police. She called every ex-boyfriend. And when none of that worked, she turned to me. You're the one we can count on, she said. I believed her. I drove to my parents' house on a Wednesday. I knew their schedule. My dad had physical therapy at 10, and my mom always drove him. I had at least 90 minutes. I let myself in with the spare key. Same ceramic frog by the side door, it had been there since I was 9. The house smelled like lemon cleaner and something stale underneath it. I walked upstairs past the linen closet, past the framed school photos, Claire's large and centered, mine smaller and off to the side, and I stood at the end of the hallway. I put my hand on the knob of Claire's door. It turned. The room was exactly as it had always been. Lavender comforter pulled tight, yearbooks on the desk, an old beach sunset poster thumbtacked above the headboard, but the closet door was open. And the light was on. I crossed the room and looked inside. Claire's old clothes had been pushed to one side, and in their place, stacked neatly on the floor, were 4 cardboard boxes. I opened the first one. Inside, folded in tissue paper, were children's clothes. Dresses, cardigans, a little pair of Mary Jane's still in the original shoebox. Girls sizing, 6 to 10 years old. Every single item had a name embroidered on the tag. Claire. I opened the second box. A pink rain jacket, a set of hair ribbons, a small jewelry box. Inside, a bracelet, engraved, CB, Claire Brandt. These weren't childhood keepsakes. The tags were from stores that opened 2 years ago. The sizes matched my daughter. My knees hit the carpet. I opened the third box. No clothes, a manila folder thick with papers, Zelle transfer confirmations, printed on plain white paper. Each one showing a payment from my parents' account to a recipient in Reno, Nevada. The name on the receiving end was Claire Brandt. The amounts ranged from $300 to $800. Some months had 2 transfers. The oldest receipt was dated 3 years ago, 2 weeks after Claire's goodbye text. The most recent was last month. I flipped through every page and ran the math on my phone. 36 months, average of $580 per transfer. Sometimes twice a month, just over $38,000. 38,000 of the 41 I couldn't account for. The rest, probably cash, untraceable. At the bottom of the folder, paperclipped to the last receipt, was a handwritten note in my mother's looping cursive. Don't tell Nadia's mom, she wouldn't understand. She didn't even use my name. I heard the front door open downstairs. I took photographs of every single page. The folder, the note, all 4 boxes, every embroidered tag. I texted them to a cloud folder. Then I stood up, smoothed my jacket, and walked downstairs. My mother was at the bottom of the stairs. She looked at me, then past me. Then at the hallway behind me, at the door I'd left a few inches open. Her face shifted through something I'd never seen before. Not panic. Recognition. You went in her room, she said, not a question. I did. She sat down on the bottom step like she'd been expecting this conversation for years and had already decided how it would go. Then you saw what I've been building for her. Those clothes are sized for Nadia, Mom. She looked up at me, and I saw something that genuinely frightened me, not guilt, not shame, certainty. Nadia could be our second chance, she said. When Claire comes back, she'll need to see we kept her place, that we didn't forget. Nadia has Claire's eyes. You've always known that. I stood in that hallway and understood, fully, for the first time, what had been happening to my daughter. My mother wasn't confused. She wasn't grieving irrationally. She had been slowly, deliberately, methodically replacing my child with a ghost. And she thought it was love. My dad appeared in the living room doorway. He was gripping the frame like it was the only solid thing left. His eyes were red. He didn't speak. He had known. He had always known. I picked up my bag and walked out the front door without a word. That night I built the file. I called it Family Reconciliation. 23 pages, color-coded, tabbed. Every dollar I'd sent, matched against every expense my mother claimed, with the verified amount in black and the variance in red. It took 4 days. Every night after Nadia went to sleep, I sat at the kitchen table and worked. Marcus sat across from me. When I finally showed him the finished document, he looked at it for a long moment. "That is the most terrifying thing I've ever seen," he said. "Good. I also made some calls. I canceled the mortgage autopay. I dropped my dad from the insurance plan I'd been funding. I removed my parents' phone lines from my account. I flagged the Kasin loan I discovered buried in the records for follow-up. Every cancellation was documented. Confirmation numbers, screenshots, dates. This wasn't revenge. It was a reconciliation of my own accounts, of my money, my boundaries, and 30 years of a ledger I'd been keeping wrong." Then my sister called. "Reno area code, unknown number." I almost didn't answer. "Myra, it's Claire." Her voice was warm, casual, like she was calling to make brunch plans. "I know it's been a while, but Mom said things are a little tight right now. I was wondering if you could what, Claire?" "Silence, help out. Like you always do, family helps family." I held the phone away from my face and just stared at it, then I brought it back. "Are you in Reno?" "Mom told you." "Nobody told me anything. I'm an accountant." "Where do you think I learned to read a paper trail?" More silence. Then, softer, "Look, I know how it looks." "Do you?" "Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you vanished, let Mom and Dad funnel my money to you for 3 years while telling me it was for Dad's heart, and then help pick out a dress for my daughter with your name on it." She exhaled, long and shaky. "I'm going through a hard time, Myra. You don't know what it's like." "You're right," I said. "I don't." I hung up, added a note to the file. Claire confirmed contact, aware of the dress. The dinner was my mother's idea. She framed it as a family get-together. Pot roast. The good china. The candles lit, but I knew the choreography. I'd watched her run this play before, gather the audience before the accused can speak, control the narrative before the truth lands. The usual cast was there. My grandmother, Ruth, 86 years old and sharp as wire. My Aunt Diane, who trusted my mother's version of almost everything. 2 cousins who were clearly there as witnesses without fully knowing for what. I walked in with a canvas tote bag over my shoulder. My mother hugged me at the door like she was performing forgiveness in front of an audience. We ate. She was gracious and composed, and controlled the conversation with a surgical precision I had to grudgingly respect. By the time the cobbler came out, she was ready. She folded her hands. She looked around the table. "As some of you may know," she began, "Nadia's mom has decided to stop helping us financially." Her voice caught just enough, just barely. "Your Uncle Frank is 67 with a heart condition, and she's cut off the support we depend on over a misunderstanding about a child's dress." She looked at me with an expression designed to radiate hurt. Aunt Diane turned to me slowly. "Nadia's mom, is that true?" I reached down and unzipped the tote bag. The room went silent, not politely quiet, but that deep, airless stillness that happens when everyone senses something real is about to land. I laid the 23-page file on the table, tab facing outward. Family reconciliation, color-coded, cross-referenced. Then I laid the dress beside it. Pink cotton, pearl buttons, collar facing up, Claire. Ruth leaned forward and adjusted her bifocals. Diane's lips parted. My dad stared at the cobbler like it held everything he'd done wrong. "This is the dress my parents sent my daughter for her 8th birthday," I said. My voice was level. "Even, the name on it isn't hers." I opened the folder and pointed to the red column. I didn't yell, I didn't cry, I just walked them through the math. $41,000 over 3 years. $38,000 confirmed in Zelle transfers to my sister in Reno. The fake copies, the phantom emergencies, the note at the bottom of the folder that said "don't tell her." Diane pulled a page toward herself and read the dates, the amounts, the routing information. She looked at my mother. "You called me 3 times this week and told me she was abandoning you over a dress." My mother stood up so fast her chair hit the wall. "You had no right." Her voice cracked and climbed. "You went through her room. You went through her things." She spun to the table, searching for anyone who would hold. "She's my daughter. She's always been my daughter. I was keeping her place. I was making sure she had something to come home to. With my money," I said quietly. "You were always jealous." She pointed at me. The composed, rehearsed version of her was completely gone. "From the time you were 5 years old you couldn't stand that Claire was special. That she was mine in a way she stopped herself." The sentence hung in the room like smoke. Ruth set both hands flat on the table. Her voice came out thin and absolutely final. "Sit down, Carol." My mother sat down. My dad spoke for the first time all evening. He didn't look up from his plate. I knew, he said. I knew she was sending the money. I knew about the clothes. I let it happen because I was too tired to fight it. A pause. I'm sorry, Nadia's mom. Ruth looked at me across the table, past the dress, past the folder, past her own daughter. I warned her when you were 12, she said. I told her she was leaning on you too hard. She told me I was being dramatic. Diane wiped her eyes. Nobody touched the cobbler. I stood up slowly. I'm not here to yell, I said. I'm here to tell you what's already done. I looked at both of them. The mortgage autopay is canceled. The insurance is lapsed. The phone plan is dropped. The loan is flagged. My mother made a sound I'd never heard from her before, something between a gasp and a collapse. I don't hate you, I said. I don't hate Claire. Send her every dollar you earn, that's your right, but you will not use my money to fund it, and you will not use my daughter to rebuild the child you lost. I picked up the folder. I left the dress on the table. Love Claire all you want, I said from the doorway. You will not rebuild her out of mine. Ruth nodded once. I walked to my car under a sky that was just starting to go dark, folder on the passenger seat, hands completely steady. It was the quietest drive of my life, and I don't think I'd ever been more awake. The fallout came in pieces over the following weeks. The mortgage went late, my dad's premium insurance lapsed, their phones went dark. And when the Zelle transfers stopped, when there was nothing left to send, my sister went silent. 3 weeks without a single message from Reno. When the money dried up, so did the love. That told me everything I needed to know. A month later, Nadia started 2nd grade. I ordered her a new dress for the first day. Yellow cotton, white buttons, her name stitched on the inside collar in blue thread. Nadia. She ran her finger over the embroidery before putting it on and looked up at me like it was the best thing she'd ever owned. It says my name, she said. It does, baby. It always will. I used to think being indispensable was the same as being loved. That if I was useful enough, patient enough, available enough, the people I kept standing would eventually turn around and really see me. They never did. But my daughter does, every single day. Some families are built on love. Some are built on whoever keeps the lights on and never complains about it. The day I stopped keeping the lights on, that was the day I started actually living. And I didn't need a spreadsheet to figure that out, though it definitely helped.